You're watching the Using Technology Better Show.
Tech tips for teachers.
Hello there and welcome to another episode of the Using Technology Better Show. I'm Samantha, coming to you from Melbourne, and today my special co-host is...
I'm Adrian and I'm coming from the Adelaide studios of the UTB show, which is actually my spare bedroom. But anyway, I'm here in hot Adelaide with Sam to produce this show for you today.
Lovely, thanks so much Adrian. So our theme for this month is Safer Internet Day because it's February and February is Safer Internet Day month. Adrian, do you want to tell us a little bit more about who we've got joining us today?
So today we've got two of our trainers from New Zealand. We've got Mark and Carla who are going to jump on board and give us some kind of wisdom about how they can set up stuff in their classroom for safer internet usage for their kids. So why don't we jump in now and get them on a call and pick their brains to grab some really good information that we can use. So, g'day Mark, g'day Carla, how you doing?
Hey guys, hey Adrian.
I'm doing great, what about you?
Yeah, pretty cool. So Mark, do you want to quickly give us a big snapshot of the Mark Herring story about your background and your interest in schools and what you've done in places like that? That'd be good.
No worries, just a quick hour. Have you got an hour? No, that's all good.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I'll just go get a cup of tea. Yeah.
Yeah, so my background is I was a youth worker first and then became a teacher in primary school. So that was my background. And then I started working for UTB as a trainer about 4 or 5 years ago. Everything blurs into one, doesn't it? And yeah, so now I'm working in schools in New Zealand. So I'm a New Zealand experienced teacher and working with a lot of schools up and down the country.
Cool. And Carla, give us a bit of background, especially the reason why you're sitting here as well for us.
Absolutely. I could feel like I could do a Miss Universe introduction, you know. I'm Carla, passionate about long walks on the beach and internet safety. I am a trained teacher, but I spent my first 8 years teaching overseas in really diverse communities. So in an Islamic school in Western Sydney, and then over working in East London, and then with the Orthodox Jewish community in North London. So I've got a passion for ensuring that diverse voices are heard. And when it comes to the internet, young people's voices are critical, diverse voices are critical as well. So when I'm not training with Using Technology Better, working with incredible schools and students all over New Zealand and around the world, I am the CEO of a bullying prevention charity called Sticks and Stones, and we're a student-led charity. We work with over 900 young people over the course of a whole year and try and give them the skills and confidence to be able to create a more positive space online and off.
Well, that kind of segues really well into why we're here today, because we're really at the Safer Internet Day, is that we are kind of kicking this show around. Is how to actually be really safe online with our kids in schools, but also at home with our kids as well. So what's one tip that you wouldn't do with your students in the classroom in terms of the whole internet safety? Go Carla, what do you reckon?
Well, I think my top tip is please don't print out a list of the children's names and their passwords and glue it behind the door of your classroom where everyone can see it, and try to avoid using the same password format for every child. So if we can have less of first name, last name, initial 1, 2, 3 across the whole school, I think we're making a great start.
But Carla, that's so easy though. But why? I don't understand.
I know. I think the tricky part there is what we're trying to empower students to know is that they have a right for their personal information to be kept private. And privacy is about their personal information being safe, as opposed to security, when it's about data that might be theirs and it might be the schools being safe, which is when we're talking about security. So if we are not putting a priority on privacy with our youngest students by having the password list behind the door, then we're setting them up not to expect it. And one of our basic human rights is privacy, and we want our young people to expect that to be respected.
Yeah, cool. So Mark, what would be one thing you'd do with with a group of students, just teaching around that whole idea of being safe online without their identities or their passwords? What would something that you would put in place in the class for your kids?
Yeah, like I was just going to say, one of the things that I wouldn't do is just assume that you've got the fences in place and that, no one's going to sort of breach them and get past them, because eventually you've got some smart cookies using devices these days. The generation has grown up with devices and they know how to get around those fences that we put up. So, I mean, that's one of my advice sort of main tips for leaders is just make sure that you're across things and that you're prepared for things to go haywire and kids to slip under or around or over, particularly when students get to high school level.
Just wondering, most kids sign an agreement, a digital technology agreement, something in the school, they walk in, they sign it. What are your views on that? Does that just mean once they've signed that, we can just walk away, or how do we manage that part of it?
Yeah, I know, Carla, you're pretty hot on this sort of thing, but I mean, my take is that that's a really good starting point to get the conversation going, and then it gives you a little bit of a buy-in and some ownership from the parents and the students, to have that conversation. So if anything goes wrong further down the track, or you've got those sort of teachable moments, I'll do the dreaded air quotes. You see that as an opportunity to have that conversation, and that's when you can bring that agreement out. So I mean, that would be my take on it.
I love how you give me the door to open, Mark. I agree that it's a starting point. I think my problem is when it isn't a starting point, but it's the one and done. We've had the students or parents sign an agreement, and as such we are completely covered and protected, which we know from some really big issues that have emerged with schools. You have an obligation to positively teach those skills on an ongoing basis, and that agreement on its own is not enough. The other thing that I'm really passionate about is, could your young people be involved in co-designing that agreement so that what they're signing is something that they've been involved in creating, rather than something that you've done to them that they may or may not understand. And my final point on that, and then I'll get off my soapbox, is that our language needs to be positive, and we don't want a list of don'ts. It's not an agreement that is, I will not do this and I will not do that. Because young people are pretty well versed in what not to do. Where they get confused is, if I'm not doing that, what am I doing?
Yeah, true. And just a side of that is that what would you do with the parents? Because obviously the parents sign a bit of paper or something like that. How would you bring them on board with that journey as well? Because they're part of the community of the school. What would you do? What's a couple of tips you could do for schools wanting to engage parents?
Mark, doors open.
My turn. Well, I mean, one of the things that we can do often as teachers, and leaders in schools, is we've got children of our own. So sharing our own personal experiences and our own journey with our own children at home is really important. And so I just brought up, if I just sort of pull that up, you can't really kind of see, but our family's within the Apple ecosystem, so they've got iPads and iPhones and things, and we discovered the screen time function that you can set all of your students. We've got your children, sometimes you think of them as your students, but the children from 16 and down, we've got 3 of them, 16, 14 and 11, and so we have them all in the family sharing approach. So there's different things that you can do within that Apple ecosystem, and I know Microsoft have some really good tools, and there's a good one for, if you've got Google happening as well. So that's one thing you can do, because I think that really helps sort of show parents that you've got that empathy level and you're sort of, trying to work through the same issues with your family as well. That's definitely one of my tips.
That's a great tip. Now, that is a fantastic segue, Mark. You didn't even realise this, but I've actually made a really short video on the privacy settings and the things that you can set up inside Microsoft Edge. So what we might do is we'll just throw to that now. It goes for a couple of minutes. You get to hear my dulcet tones again, just explaining how to do those settings and also how to set up stuff for your family. So let's jump into that now and see what that looks like. So when it comes to privacy, there's a lot of settings you can do inside your browser. So I'm looking at Microsoft Edge here, and I can show you where the settings are in there, so to make it a bit safer for you online and also online for your family. So to access the settings, you need to come to the top part of your window and click on the 3 dots. And there is a settings tab down here that will then open up the settings window for you. When you get to the settings window, there's a couple of things you can play around with here. All your profiles are living in here, but also down here we've got our privacy, search and services. So this is the place we want to play in to make sure that we are being safe online. Now the first thing that you can choose when you get to here is the tracking prevention. So tracking is when trackers are used to collect the data about you when you're on your different websites and different behaviors, and it can kind of add functionality to a website, like things like the comments and the chat, and also personalizing the ads that you see. So therefore you go across different sites and different ads will pop up. So you can actually turn this off completely if you want to up here, or you can put it as balanced, or you can put it as strict as well. So it's pretty quite cool when you do this. You can actually just lock it right down if you want to. You can then click on here and it will actually open up all the trackers that have come from you and where they have originated from, which is quite interesting to look at. And then you can also flash that out if you want to. You can also allow trackers on some sites that you want to, which is nice. Now down the bottom here, as we move down, there's a couple of other things you might be interested in. One is just clearing your browsing data. Some people like to flush that out every now and then, but also you can choose what you want to flush out. So you might just keep the main ones for your school or those other ones that you use all the time and not flush those out for your browsing data, or you might just kind of keep it in there as well. You can also set up do not track requests, so therefore nothing can track you when you're jumping into another website, which is pretty cool. And then there's some other settings down here that you may want to do as well, and you can actually play around with some more settings in the privacy dashboard here if you want to. A couple of things with security down the bottom which I have turned on. There's one, I've got the smart screen by Defender, and this basically just sits there in the background and just checks for safe sites and probable causes, and every now and then you'll get a pop-up saying this extension has now been it indicates that it might be a bit dodgy, so you don't need to use it, and you can turn that off. And you can actually be quite granular with what you do in those areas. And also you can also block unwanted apps. So I've turned that on as well, so nothing actually kind of comes through unless I really want it to. So that's kind of that area, the over big area. But the other thing which is really nice in the Microsoft Edge way is this family safety over here. So if I come to family safety, you can actually set this up to work on your family. They need to log in with their Microsoft account, or if they're on a computer or an Xbox or something like that. And then you can get activity reports off the back of that to see what your kids have been accessing. You can put in content filters, so you can change the way in which your children can see things on the web, and you can block out sites and things like that. And also you can have the peace of mind across all the devices, so you can track what's going on in all the devices. Now this isn't like a big stick kind of solution, but this is kind of that conversation to have with your kids about how we're going to be using technology really safely in our environment. So that's some really nice things that's sitting inside Edge.
Oh, Adrian, what a cool tip. Thanks heaps.
Yeah, no worries. My pleasure. Just a couple of other questions, like from a school point of view, is there some way that we can kind of manage the way the devices are used from like an admin end? Do you guys know anything about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Within the Google environment, you have got a lot of options within the admin console to really have that security set up so that your students can be having access to things that are appropriate for their age and stage. So one of the things that's really important is that in your admin console, rather than just having your school domain, if you're using Google, that you use organizational units. So you've got a student organizational unit and you've got a staff organizational unit, and then you can take it a bit further beyond that. So if you want to have Hangouts on for staff but you don't want it on for students, then you can apply different settings depending on those organizational units. And especially with things like YouTube, you can have that set to really safe filtering for all of your students and a more open access with your teachers. You could also have the setting for your students that only videos that are G-rated or that have been approved by any of your teachers can be viewed. So it's one extra step for your teachers, but a whole lot of added security for your students.
That's really cool, because I know that one of the schools that I worked at, we use ClickView a lot. So instead of opening up YouTube for all the kids, which will then kind of cause our bandwidth to crash and absolutely horrible from every aspect, we use ClickView to be able to store all the videos that we had already curated, and then the kids could access it at any time. Do you know of any other tools that can help you curate content for your kids? Because that's probably one of the hardest things. Often we say, hey, we're going to research China, quickly jump in and just search, and they go nuts and they can be searching everywhere, but there should be a way that we can curate that better. Is there anything out there that you've used that you reckon works well?
Yeah, I've got an absolute favourite tool. So it's a free Chrome extension called Insert Learning. And the reason that I love it is because as a teacher, you can take any website, any content online, and you can personalize it specifically for your students. So a website, in the way it's designed, can be really busy and really difficult to know what to read and what's important. So using Insert Learning, what you can do is you can highlight important information on the page, you can have discussion points or post-its, you can link other videos that might not even be on that page, and then you're given a personalized link that's your version of that site for your students that you can push out in Teams or in Classroom or in other options. So hey, why don't I jump in and give you a quick breakdown of how it works. Fantastic Chrome extension that you can use to make website content more accessible for your students and make it personalized so that you're guiding them through what's important on the page and giving them some opportunities to start a discussion or answer some questions. So Chrome extensions live up here in your bar beside your extensions menu, and then once I select the purple speech bubble with IL in it, that's going to open a small sub-menu over on the left-hand side of your page. And those tools are fantastic. So you can see I'm here on Wonderopolis, which is a really cool site if you haven't checked it out. One of the cool things about Wonderopolis is that some of the vocab that the students might experience, they'll highlight so they can find out the meaning of different words. But what I can do is I can actually highlight the information that is really important that the students need to focus on just by selecting the highlight text feature and then choosing what's important. Another thing that I can do, which is really cool, is I can use this insert sticky note option, and then I can add any information and embed other things like YouTube clips. So if my class were checking out Slinkies, another toy that wasn't meant to be a toy was Silly Putty. So I've just embedded a YouTube clip for them to watch there. So they don't have to go to another tab, they can just keep going with the information here. Pretty great, right? As I come down, I've got another choice that I can insert a question. Now these can be open answer or multi-choice. So here I've just said, well, have you ever played with a Slinky? Yes or no? And the students can answer that directly on the page. Another thing that you can do with the questions is there's a number of question stems that come up that you might want to use if you're asking comprehension questions. I can also start a discussion, which is this chat feature over here. So in the text, it says the Slinky became a national sensation. So I've said to the students, well, why do they think the Slinky was a national sensation? And I'm asking them to respond to that. As I'm coming down, another super cool feature is when you insert a sticky note, there's also the choice for you to record your own video. So I've recorded a video with a challenge here for the students to undertake. What toy do you think should be added to the Toy Hall of Fame? And then I can also come down, you can see I've used the highlight feature again, and I've used a sticky note. Have a go at one of the activities below, or come up with one of your own. And there is the video icon that I use to record my message. Down here in the 3 dots, more options, I can assign this to students, and I can do that via Teams. I could also do that via Google Classroom. I could also send a link. And then the students are going to see the personalized version of this website that I've annotated and got ready for them. Cool thing about Insert Learning, you can sign up and have a go, do 5 different activities completely free before you're under any obligation to pay any kind of subscription. So take some time, have a bit of a look and see if it's a great tool for you to be able to make content more accessible and to be able to guide students to the information that's important on any website. Good luck!
Excellent. No, great advice. Well, thank you so much, Carla and Mark, for jumping on tonight. It was great to have you here, and we look forward to picking your brain even further in future UTB shows. So see you later. Ciao.
Amazing. Take care.
See you, Adrian, Sam.
Thanks so much for that, guys. It was really great to hear your conversation, and thanks so much for sharing all of your wisdom and those wonderful tips, which I'm really sure that you, our audience, are going to find useful. So as always, if you want to find out a little more about the things that were mentioned today, be sure to check the show notes because we've got some links in there. And if you want to make sure you know when the latest episode of the Using Technology Better show is available, subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that's it today. I'm going to bid you farewell, Adrian. Ta-ta!
See you guys. Thanks for coming. See you again next time. Bye.
See you then. Bye.